Welcome to IB Times TV. I'm Vanessa Keller, and today we'll be looking at Chelsea's transfer activity in January. With yet another managerial changeover, there's a multitude of directions that the club could go in come January 1st. I'm here with fellow journalists Adrian Back and Nick Howson. Boys, let's start with who's going to be calling the shots for Chelsea come January. It's been pretty clear that Rafa Benitez is an interim manager. Will it be Abramovich who's making the signings, Adrian?
Yeah, I'm sure Rafa's going to have a bit of input. He'll certainly say who he'd like to bring into the club, but I think we all know that Roman Abramovich is the guy in charge. He's the guy calling the shots. He's going to say who he'd like to bring in. Torres was his man, but of course, don't think we can forget the influence of Michael Emenalo, who's now the technical director. He seems the guy very closely linked with Abramovich. He's going to have a bit of say as well. So between them, I think they'll come up with the options, and Rafa will just have to deal with whatever he's presented with.
So looking at how much money is going to be available to them, Nick, there's a few things coming into play here. Chelsea finished in the black for the first time in Abramovich's era in the last financial period. Financial fair play rules as well. Do you think he'll be spending as much as what he normally does?
I think when it comes to Abramovich spending, I think he's kind of got he's made his bed, and I think now he's going to try and sleep in it. He spent a lot of money. Let's not forget Chelsea spent the second most in Europe over the summer, and those players haven't particularly produced, like he would like. I think it's easy to forget that, in recent summers, recent transfer windows, Abramovich has withheld from spending, lots of money, Fernando Torres apart. I think this January is going to be a very similar story. The commercial deals the club have done have helped them, get into the black, and that's fantastic. I think they'll be very keen to stabilise the finances and more to do, I think, actually, with the squad having just, producing the best they can. I think that's the underlining factor here.
Well, having profited, they won the Champions League in the same period, so, they're obviously doing pretty well with that.
Absolutely, and Abramovich will look at that and think, well, why are these players not producing the same source of quality the club were last year? And I think he has absolutely every right to do that. And I think it's quite easy to forget that Fernando Torres isn't the only issue here with Chelsea. A number of big money signings who simply haven't produced, and I think he'll be looking for a couple more % out of each of them. Rafa Benitez has talked about improving a lot since he was appointed the interim manager. I think that might be the one addition they'll want in January.
Now on to Ashley Cole and Frank Lampard. Rafa Benitez has confirmed that they're likely going to leave by the end of the season. Do you think it will be as early as January, Nick?
I think that's perhaps unlikely for a number of reasons. I think the issue with Frank Lampard is that he's a legend of the club, and it'd be quite an acrimonious end for it all to come to an end in January. There's also an issue that if he's going to go to, for example, LA Galaxy, I think it's probably the most likely destination. He'd actually have to spend two months without playing at all, and that seems quite a strange way to for your career to suddenly dwindle. And for a player like Frank Lampard, who, let's not forget, still will have a desire to go to the World Cup in a year or so's time. So I think that's unlikely that he'll leave in January. As for Ashley Cole, it's slightly different. I always get the impression that Chelsea are trying to maybe wash their hands of him a little bit. His off-the-field episodes are well documented. However, of course, he's playing very often. I mean, Chelsea haven't really got Ryan Bertrand, fantastic left-back he may well be, but he's still learning at this level. It'd be very risky for Chelsea if they've got any ambition of trying to challenge for the Premier League title, of getting rid of a player who arguably is one of the best left-backs in the world.
So looking at players coming in, mostly it's been strikers that have been connected with Chelsea. Who's your pick, Adrian?
I guess if they could sign anyone, they're going to want Falcao. I think everyone knows that. He's been absolutely fantastic for the last 3 seasons. Was brilliant for Porto, and he's doing the same again at Atletico Madrid. This season already, he's basically averaging a goal a game. He's up there with Messi and Ronaldo, and that is some statistic to be able to do that. If Chelsea could sign him, then I think he'd be perfect for their system. He enjoys the ball into his feet, can hold the ball up as well, and you've seen he's an absolutely clinical finisher. Another guy linked, which might be an interesting one, would be Hulk. Now, he's a player that Chelsea have been linked with for a long, long time. Another ex-Porto striker who excelled. The only problem now is that he's a bit stroppy. He's obviously declared at Zenit that he doesn't want to stay. He wants to leave in January. He's fallen out with the manager Spalletti, but of course he can't actually leave in January. He could only leave at the end of the season because he can't play for another club. Perhaps Chelsea will look at that at the end of the season.
So Chelsea do bring in this striker. They do start bringing in the goals. Guys, do you think that will affect their position on the table? They're quite high up at the moment, but going through a bit of a tough period at the moment with Rafa Benitez coming in and all the controversy surrounding that. Do you think they can do better than third?
I'm not sure they can do any better than third. I really don't think they're up there with Man City or Man United this season. They're probably the best they can hope for is third, and that's Champions League again. If the goals arrive, there's no reason why they can't get back to the early season form they showed. If Oscar Hazard and Mata can fire again, and they get a striker that can finish, then there's no reason why they can't sort of push on, have a good second half to the season. January may make a difference. And also, of course, Rafa Benitez just having a bit more time to work with the players and find out a system that he wants. Defensively, he can get them a bit tighter. Then, yeah, there's no reason why they can't push for third.
I think there's several factors. Firstly, getting John Terry back as quickly as they possibly can. Trying to get that first choice defence in place. And Benitez, we've already seen him sort of tinkering with the shape somewhat. And Chelsea, I guess they conceded 3 goals against West Ham United, but they do look slightly more solid. There were 2 clean sheets before that. I think the other factor is Benitez kind of needs to sort of loosen the shackles somewhat. I think it's earlier in the season we saw Mata, Oscar and Hazard at their free-flowing best. They're allowed to do what they like. At the moment, we're not seeing the 3 of them play all the time at the moment. And as a hark back to what I said earlier, we may well see a new striker come in, but there are other issues to tackle here.
Well, that's all we've got time for today, guys. Thanks for joining us. And if you'd like more Chelsea news, head to ibtimes.co.uk/sports.